U.S. President Donald Trump is linking the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy to an increased risk of autism and recommending Tylenol use is limited during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely necessary. And that would mean you just can't tough it out. No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation, maybe stronger from me than from the group because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say, I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it.
Dr. Peter Lynn is a family physician and CBC's health columnist. Nice to see you, doctor. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to see you, JP.
So should we be taking medical recommendations from the president? What do you make of this move by the U.S. administration?
Yeah, he was actually very adamant that women do not take Tylenol during pregnancy. And for the newborns, he was also saying not to take Tylenol. Now, the studies that are coming out, there's one from Harvard where they basically look at a lot of studies put together. We can't do an official study where we give you Tylenol to see if we cause autism. So what we do is we look back to databases where we might have that information. So when they looked at 46 studies together at neurodegenerative development problems, basically, it's all of these things. So it's autism spectrum disorder, also ADHD and other developmental delays. They said that there was a slight increase with the acetaminophen. But within those 46 studies, there were 8 studies that were specifically looking at autism. And there was about 6 of those that said that there is a connection. Now, here's the problem is that there's a connection. Is it actually causing it? Maybe the infection that you're taking the acetaminophen for is the one that's causing it. And is it the medication itself? But basically, his message was, let's not take any chances. Let's not take it. And therefore, we can just tough it out. He was talking about toughing it out for the pain. But really, the acetaminophen is most important for fever. Because if our fever hits, let's say, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, as he was talking about, or 40 degrees Celsius, then some of our proteins start to break down. And so that can cause a lot of damage. So for high fevers, it is still recommended. And even the article people that wrote that paper said that if you need it for fever control, then it's still worthwhile. But use the smallest amount and the shortest duration.
Yeah, so some of the analysis published in BMC Environmental Health and is authored in part by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. They looked at studies on the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy and neurodevelopmental disorders. The analysis was that there was evidence of a relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and increased risk of ASD, but it wasn't a definitive causation, as you say. You know, what should be the takeaway as people will hear this? I mean, Tylenol is in every medicine cabinet in the country just about, and there's a lot of pregnant folks out there. What should people be thinking about that Tylenol bottle? Should they be skeptical of it, be a little concerned about taking a pill now that they know that some of this talk is out there?
Yes, and also the FDA has said at that same press conference that they will be updating the label. In other words, the label of the Tylenol will have words to this effect. So I think the take-home message for most people is that if you need it to control high fevers or pain, then it is still the safest thing that we have available for pregnant women. And that's what the obstetrics and gynecology associations have been saying. The pediatric societies have been saying that as well. I think the concept is, are you just taking it randomly? And I don't think women are taking medications randomly. So we limit the amount there. And just to point out, the first description of autism was in 1943 by a doctor who looked at 11 kids and wrote about these kids, that they were turned inward and they weren't able to socialize, etc. Acetaminophen or Tylenol didn't come onto the market till 1955. So 12 years later. So there are other causes of acetaminophen, or other than acetaminophen, for autism disorders. And so that's why we need to focus on those things as well. For the moment, I guess if you don't need to take acetaminophen, I don't think women are taking that. So we can easily abide by that only for high fevers, those kind of things. We take it, but I don't think it's you take it and then therefore every child is going to come out with autism.
Trump talked about the autism rates and the increase. You're talking about it there. What factors do we know have led to the increase in the prevalence of ASD?
And people are looking for that. Is it a genetic change or something, or a bit of genetics and also exposure to something else? Infections, pollution, plastics has gone up as well. And so one of the things that they announced was that they've got $50 million to do 13 studies. They've accepted 13 proposals for studies to look at other causes. So the acetaminophen is something that we can take care of now by just limiting the amount that we use, but let's go look for the other causes as well. And he was mentioning also about treatments, you know, that he was mentioning about this leucovorin. And so this is about vitamin B9, which you and I know as folic acid. So folate comes from green leafy vegetables, so you can get that into your body. It is needed inside your cells to do all sorts of important things. We can take it as folic acid. That's the pill version that we take during pregnancy to stop some of these neurotube defects and things like that. So we know about this folate. Now, the interesting thing in a small group of autism children, the receptor that brings in that vitamin is not working well. Or once the vitamin comes in, it is not converted into the active form. So if that's the case, then leucovorin is the active form of this folic acid. So it doesn't need the receptor to go in and it doesn't need to be activated. And so therefore that medication may be able to bypass any of these defects. Now remember, that's only going to work in the children with that defect with the folic acid. So in the autism kids that are not because of folic acid, it won't work. So therefore my worry is that it's going to be a panacea because everybody will go and try and get this basically for their autistic child. And so now it may not work very well because if they don't have that defect, then that medication is going to not work well. And then we're going to feel that it's a failure. So let's just be careful about some of these panaceas that people are talking about.
I want to just end on this note. What do you make of the president giving this sort of advice, talking about medical information as he is? We know he got into a bit of trouble during COVID-19 when he started handing out medical advice. Do you think that this is a prudent approach for a political leader like this to be talking about a common product like Tylenol and linking it to autism?
Yeah, I think the problem is that he reads the surface, right? So therefore, when you read the surface, you sort of think, about a third of the people die while sleeping. So therefore, beds kill people. That obviously doesn't make any sense. So in this particular case, I think he's coming out very strong because he wants to show that he cares about autistic kids, which he does. But I think the key thing is we need to follow what everybody else is saying. So the FDA is saying we are going to look at it closely. We're going to change labels, perhaps. So we now have to pay attention. If the Tylenol label changes, then it's probably going to say something to the effect, use if you have high fevers and those kinds of things, and something to the effect about the lowest amount and shortest duration, which I think most women were doing and most physicians were doing already. But I think the more important thing is the research around the other causes. In other words, let's go chase down the other things. And I think it's good for all autistic families because now we've got a big megaphone, in a sense, trying to speed up the research process. And that's what I'm hopeful for, is not so much the recommendation from our president there in the United States, but more about the research that it's going to spur, and therefore hopefully we'll find the causes and, more importantly, some of the treatments for these kids.
All right, let's leave it there. Dr. Peter Lynn, nice to see you, sir.
Good to see you again.